Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to part 4, The Making of a Monster, right? Now, in Jason's own words, now Max is about to get off of lockup. That part is true. That part is true. But what he doesn't know, what Jason doesn't understand, is that Max has changed. And this is the confrontation. So Max is getting ready to get out the hole, and he sends this letter to Jason, and Jason is reading the letter, and he said, "My brother, I pray that this letter finds you in the best of health. I am writing you this letter because I believe that when I do get out of lockdown, you're not going to understand or accept the person that I have become. But I've changed my life. I've changed the way that I see things. And I apologize to you for being the type of person that I was and manipulating and using you the way that I did. I accept full responsibility for my actions and what I did to you. And I just hope that you can find it in your heart one day to forgive me." And what he didn't understand was that this was a sincere effort on Max's part. So Jason is talking to his seller, and he's telling his seller, he said, "Look, I don't understand what Max is saying. All I do know is that I can't wait to see my brother. All of this has to be the scam. All of this is part of the scam, because that's what it's about. I know this is what Max is doing. He's scamming them. He's conning them. He's making them believe that he's different, that he's changed. But that's penitentiary. Got all these people running around in here acting like they good, acting like they knew, following the rules, doing all this and doing all that. Ain't nothing changed. Dope still moving, money still moving, extortion still happening, people still getting beat, raped, robbed, and murdered. It's still going on in here. And I know Max ain't finna come out here and be anybody that somebody can run over. I know he ain't. We ain't gonna do that. Not me and my brother. We not gonna be that type of person to let somebody run over us, to hurt us. It's not gonna happen. We men. We strong. We hold it down." That's what he had been taught. Now, weeks go by, and he gets word from the counselor that Max is getting out in the morning. He'll be back on the compound in general population in the morning. So Jason asked the counselor, could Max be his cellie? He even told the counselor he would give up the bottom bunk. And the counselor said, "I don't know, we'll see. Let him get back on the compound because you have a cellie now. And if that's the case, we'll work that out and we can move people around or whatever. But right now, you gotta wait to see if that's what he wants to do." And Max gets out of the hole. And the first person that he goes to see is not Jason. Jason knows he's out of the hole. He's hearing that everybody's talking about, the whole compound is buzzing. Max is back. Max is back. But he goes to the chaplain. Goes to the chaplain. And Jason thinks this is part of the long game. So he runs up to the chaplain's office and he sees Max at the altar. And he's at the altar praying. And the chaplain got his hand on his head and he's praying with him. And Jason is watching this. He can't move. He's frozen. His feet won't move. He wants to turn and run away, but he can't. He says, as I stood there and I watched him, I'm looking at him and I'm seeing this, but I don't know what to think about it. He'd never seen this. He started to think about his mother. And his mind flashed back to when his mother taught him how to pray. He hadn't thought about that in a long time. And he could see his mother on her knees beside him and his brother, teaching him how to pray. And Jason just watched him. He watched him. And when they finished, Max stood up and he hugged the chaplain. And he thanked him. And he told him that he would be at service tonight and every night. And the chaplain hugged him, told him he'd look forward to it. So when Max turned around, he saw Jason. And he rushed to Jason and he hugged him. He said, my brother, my brother, my brother. And Jason looked at him. He said, man, how you doing, Max? And he said, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? And they walked out of the chapel. And as they were walking across the compound, people could see them. And they saw these two familiar faces walking together again, and terror spread across the compound. He's back. He's back. And as Max was walking with Jason, he saw how people were responding to him. And he felt ashamed because he had done this. And then in his absence, Jason had done this. And Jason, he said, look, they know what time it is, Max. We back. We back. He said, man, it's good to see you. Max looked at Jason. He said, man, we got to talk. He said, yeah, I know, man. He said, man, I read your letters and all this and that. And I see you up here praying with the chaplain. He said, man, you kind and good. Max looked at him and said, this ain't no con, bro. He said, I've changed, man. And they stopped right there. Right there in the middle of the compound. And Jason looked at him and said, you've changed. What do you mean you've changed? He said, I'm not that same person. I'm not taking advantage of anybody anymore. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing any of that. And he said, man, I don't want you to do it. So Jason looked at him and he's like, I don't understand. You told me that this is how a man acts. I did this because you said this was the right thing to do. If I wanted to make it in this, through this, out of this. And Max looked at him and put his head down. He said, I was wrong. He said, I was wrong. And what we did was wrong. He said, what you're doing now is wrong. Max didn't want to hear that. Well, excuse me, Jason didn't want to hear that. He said, nah. He said, man, you tripping. And he turned his back on Max and he walked away. Max just stood there. He knew. He knew what was happening because he went through the same thing. See that Bible thumper that had gotten out? He is the one that brought Max to God. He's the one that did that. And he had that same conversation with him. So he knew when Jason turned his back on him and walked away what this was. He had to figure this out because he had to. So when Jason gets further away from him, he turns around. He said, man, you holler at me when you ain't tripping. Now everybody heard this because he yelled it back. Max stood there and looked at him and didn't say a word. And let me tell you how the penitentiary goes. Penitentiary don't care nothing about you finding God. Right? If they get a swift, just a little whiff of you not being that person that they need to fear, then they want to make sure that they become the person that you need to fear. So he had a fear of his old rivals bump down on him. Now Jason, he sees what's about to happen. So he stands there and he watches. And when they bump down on Max, Max don't do nothing. He stands there and he tells them, I apologize for what I did, but I don't want no beef with y'all. And they said, nah, we got beef with you. See, you could smell fear, right? But see, they didn't smell fear. They misinterpreted what they smelled. They misinterpreted what they were witnessing. He was stronger than he had ever been when he was under the illusion of causing people to be afraid of him. He was stronger than that. But see, they took it as weakness. And they jumped him. And they beat him. And at first, Jason started to run up there, but he stopped. And he said, that's going to snap him out of it right there. Max ain't taking no whooping from nobody. And they whooped him. They beat him down. And when the officers got over there and they pulled him up off of him, they asked him, are you okay? He was like, yeah, I'm good. And he stood up. He said, ain't nothing, just a big misunderstanding. Now they looking at him now. See, they know Max. Been knowing Max for a long, long time. And this is shocking them. He ain't never let nobody hit him and he didn't hit back. Never. Never. So they told both of them to kick rocks. They didn't take him to the hole or nothing. And they told Max, look here, we don't want no trouble out of you. We know you out here talking about your change and this and that, but we're not fooled by that. He understood where they were coming from. Just because he said he had changed don't mean nothing. Don't mean it's true. Don't mean it's true. He knows that he has to show this. The same way he convinced people to be afraid of him, he had to convince people that he loved them now. And part of that was going to be some lumps that he was going to have to take. He knew this. So Jason, he's watching. And he's confused. He don't know what's going on. He don't understand nothing. So he bumped down on the two dudes that just beat Max up, and he put hands on them, smack them around, tell them what it is. Tell them they better not try nothing like that ever again. He sent the message to the compound, Max is off limits. Better not touch him, or he'd be the sin. They understood loud and clear what it was. See, sometimes God will use a fool for his ends. You understand? Now, Max wasn't going to have to worry about nobody messing with him no more. He was going to be free to do what he felt was right to do. But he knew he had to reach Jason. Every chance he got, he's sitting him down, talking to him, walking with him. Until one day, Jason just had enough. He said, man, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. He said, I can't accept what you're saying. I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. He said, if we stop doing what we're doing here, they're going to get us. Don't you understand that? And Max told him, no, they're not. No, they're not. He said, we're protected. Man, Jason's not trying to hear that. Protected? No. No. He didn't want to hear that. So he kept doing what he was doing. So Max, he wrote Jason's father and told him who he was, what he had done, and how he was sorry. And he received the letter back. And Jason's father was a God-fearing man, and he accepted his apology. But he told Max, you got to reach him. You got to reach him because you did that. So Max went to the counselor and told him that he wanted to move back in with Jason. So when they asked Jason, Jason said he didn't want him to move in. But everybody knew Max. And they were going to listen to what Max said before Jason. So they moved Jason's cellie out, moved Max in, told Jason he wasn't moving. Because Max had assured the warden and everybody else, said it's not going to be a problem and we're going to stop this nonsense. He was committed, not because it was going to help the institution, because he wanted to make amends to Jason. He wanted to make amends to Jason. And after about 6 months, it finally started to sink in. Jason finally let him in because he was hurting. He was hurting. And he finally admitted. And he told Max, he said, man, the reason that I couldn't, that I wouldn't hear what you were saying, because I was scared. The same fear that I felt when I came into prison is what I felt the other day when you said that you didn't want to do this no more, when you were apologizing to me for what you had taught me. He said, man, everything you taught me saved my life. Max told him, it might have saved your life, but you're risking losing your soul. And Jason understood that. And he admitted that he had been thinking a lot about his mama. And she had been in his sleep tormenting him, coming to him in his sleep and telling him, it's time to get right. It's time to get right. And he finally laid it all down. And it was almost like overnight that everything that was going on as far as Max and Jason were concerned just stopped. Like I said, in prison, it's always somebody new waiting to take that mantle in that hierarchy, in that violence. They took over. Max and Jason, this is going to sound weird, they got the respect of the compound because of their reputation that afforded them the respect that they got when they were not about that. So they were able to go around the compound being respected by friends and foes alike because of what they had done in the past. And that allowed them to be able to teach and talk to young guys about doing the right thing. And even though Max was never going to be able to go home in the physical world anymore, he knew he had a home in heaven when the day came. And Jason, he looked forward to the day that he would be able to go home and continue to spread God's message on the town. But it was going to be a bittersweet time for him because he knew he would have to leave Max, somebody that had taught him right and wrong, and now more right than wrong. But he come to understand that his journey was one that he had to take in the way that he took it. He regretted that it caused other people pain, but he believes that without it, he wouldn't be the person that he is today. He wouldn't be the person that he is today. And a lot of times we take those long routes to get to who we are today. And a lot of people don't understand it because people get hurt in the process. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's not necessary either. It's just that we don't seem to get it a lot of times until we have to get it. I hope that listening to this, you come to understand and accept that, you know, you could be turned into a monster in here. You could be turned into a monster, and if you listen to some of the rhetoric that a lot of people are going to give you when you come into a place like this, but you don't have to listen to it. And I know that you're going to be scared. I was. I totally understand that. But the truth about this place is that it is a scary place. But those same people that want you to believe that it's scarier than it is, they're just as afraid of you as you are of them. I'm not saying be stupid. I'm not saying that. But when you look at them, see that child, see that hurt person in them before you see that bully. And it might help you understand them a little bit better. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all. I'm getting so tired.